Hello everyone, we're going to continue our look at the different prophecies found in the Torah, the Tanakh, and other sources from the Torah Shebal Peh, that's the oral Torah. There's many to get through, and it's a bit overwhelming trying to pick out the ones which are more relevant to what's going on right now, and also picking out the ones which are much clearer in the details of the prophecies and things like that. But we'll go to the source now. So I'm going to open up. So this is just going to be basically going through either one or two chapters, depending how quickly it goes. If you turn to the book of Ezekiel, Yechezkel, chapters 38 and 39, Perik Lamed Ches and Perik Lamed Tes, they speak about the war of Gog and Magog. So we're going to use this Chabad.org version of the online Tanakh. I haven't found a different one besides this. It seems to be the one which everyone uses. And it's got Rashi, which is really good as well. So I might bring some Rashis in, but otherwise you can look at it yourself, or you can just look it up yourself. It's called Chabad.org, and then it's got like an online Bible, a complete Jewish Bible. Okay, so let's get into it. So here we go. Right, so it starts off with Vahidvar Hashem elai le'emor, and the word was coming to me. That's Yechezkel speaking, Ezekiel. Ben Odom, son of man, referring to Yechezkel, Simponecha el Gog, put your attention or your face towards Gog. Gog, Eretz HaMagog, who's in the land of Magog, Nasi, Rosh Meshech Vesuvol, V'Nove'elov. He is the prince of Rosh Meshech and Tuval, V'Nove'elov. Okay, so who is this? Who is this? And I've got a couple of ideas, or one very strong idea what's going on here, which I don't see many people speaking about. I think I heard one person suggest this, so I'm going to give my 2 pence into the discussion here. Have to preface this, actually, before we get into trying to interpret the scriptures, put a disclaimer on, because we're told not to try making predictions and saying this is what's going to happen, this is the prophecy and it has to happen like this, and saying that the Moshiach has to come by at this point in time, or this is when he'll come. So I'm doing it just to, I really want to focus on showing the wisdom of the Torah and the wisdom of the prophets, which we believe prophesied directly from God, right? All the words of the prophets in the 24 books of the Tanakh, we believe are prophetic, which means that God told them, at least God gave them the message directly, and they put it in their words how they interpreted it, and God knew exactly how they were going to word the prophecy. So there's something intrinsically precise in the language of the prophets. That's why you can do things like the Torah codes, the Bible codes with the prophets as well, just like you can with the 5 books of Moses. For those who don't know what the Bible codes are, we might touch on that going in our other series, which we're planning to do about proofs for Judaism and the Torah. Basically, the idea is the Bible codes. There's hidden codes. Actually, it's interesting. Isaac Newton was looking for these Bible codes. He actually spent more time on it in his life trying to find secret codes in the Torah rather than his scientific discoveries and ideas, which is fascinating. He's a very religious man. Anyway, so the idea of the Bible codes, there's many examples. Rav Matisyahu Glazerson, I think, is very into them. You can look him up. You can find his many of his videos with different examples of the Bible codes. It was discovered something like 30 years ago or something using computers. That's why it took so long to do it. Newton didn't have that. Where you've got hidden messages. If you take every 7 letters or every 49 letters, which are numbers which are very significant in Judaism and Torah, then you actually get hidden messages, and it seems that there's certain things predicted. You've got, for example, about something like 50 great rabbis throughout the generations, where their names, the place they lived, the dates of their birth and their death, they all intersect each other, showing there's sort of one thing. Okay, this is for the Vilna Gaon, this is for the Chavetz Chaim, and each one's got its own. It's quite amazing. It's literally impossible to do randomly. They tried it with other books and things like that. It just doesn't work. It's quite incredible, and other things like prediction of different current or recent events as well are in there. Some people try to predict the future with it. Not so good success, but maybe the idea is there's many different possibilities of what the future may be, and they all have to be contained in the Bible codes. Anyway, so the Bible codes can be used in the books of the Tanakh as well, I believe. And so this shows that the language of the prophets is not just inspired by God; it's actually the word of God precisely. Yeah, and as we see in the Talmud treats it that way as well, and it uses the same exegesis tools to derive ideas from the prophets, just like it does from the Torah Pesukim as well. Okay, anyway, leaving that aside. So we're trying to actually just understand what these verses are talking about, and maybe we'll get a glimpse of when we see these prophecies unfolding, which is kind of happening now. We'll see exactly, that's referring to that country, that's referring to this one, and hopefully we'll see that my real purpose for doing this is to show the truth of the prophets and of the Torah, so people appreciate that Hashem's word is, as he says, with the Torah which is given still, and other pretenders to have taken over the job do not have this, right? So we're going to look at the verses here and the different Jewish commentaries, and we're going to see that some amazing ideas come out. And let's get on with it. So basically, God is telling Yechezkel to give his next prophecy about Gog, who is in the land of Magog. And this Gog is the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tuval. Okay, interesting. So you see a bit of a contradiction there. So is he the king of the land of Magog, or is he the head of Rosh, Meshech, and Tuval? Okay, so I've got an idea about that, how to answer that. And you should say to him, maybe we'll do the Hebrew and the English. So says Hashem, the God, I am towards you, Gog, Nasim Rosh Meshech v'Suval, the head of the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tuval. Again, this is his country he seems to be the king of, and Eretz HaMagog doesn't quite fit in, even though the War of Armageddon, as it's referred to, based on Megiddo, and Megiddo is a place where I think it's in Zechariah or Tzefania, one of the other smaller prophets, speaks about what happens in Megiddo. And Megiddo is part of what happens in the battle of Gog and Magog. That's why it's called Armageddon, Megiddo, right? As far as I know. Could be wrong about that, but I think so. But we've got the land of Magog. How's that fit in with this Gog, who is in the land of Magog, but he's in charge of Rosh, Meshech, v'Suval. ושבבתיך ונשאתיך אקרים בלחייך ותעשי עשך ואסכל חילך סוסים מפרשים לבושי מכלול כולם כל רב צינו מוגן תפסי חרבס כולם. And I will force you to go a certain way, and I'll put chachim, that's like hooks, they're using for fish, to catch fish, b'lchayecha, in your cheeks, it's jaws here, and I will take you out, and all your armies, with the horses and the chariots, that could be referring to tanks maybe nowadays, yeah. The Voshe Michlal Kulam, all them clothed in finery, okay, right? Kulam, a great nation, a great congregation, right? With the shields and another type of shields, I think. There's different types of shields. There's smaller shields and bigger shields. I'm not sure which way around it is. And the ones who hold swords. So these are people ready for war, basically. Right. What does it say here? Okay, fine. So basically, there's going to be some sort of supernatural, or at least hidden, sort of magnetic effect of God sort of drawing these countries which may not have any natural reason to be interested in the land of Israel, but he's going to draw them. He's going to draw them in like a hook. Like, oh, come, look, this interests you, doesn't it? Come. Get closer. So, oh, you're here. Why don't you try conquering Israel now? Right? So this is what's going to happen here. Right? We know this is going to end up not good for Gog. Now, look who else is mentioned here. Right. Poras, Kush, Ufut, Itom, Kulom, Mogen, V'chova. Persia, Kush is probably Ethiopia, something like that. And Put is also an African country, are with them. All of them with again, they're armed. Interesting, this time it says with a shield and a kova and a helmet. So maybe this is talking about more infantry type of armies, as opposed to one with Sin or Mogen, which have got much more secure shields or something like that. Gomer. Now, it's interesting that we'll see what these countries are, based on a Talmudic source soon. Base Togarmo, all of its wings. Just to tell you, I think Gomer is Germany. Even the letters are almost like Germany. But the Gemara in Yoma, there's a Talmud. It was written about 1800 years ago, something like that. Goes through the different children of Yefes. So let's just quickly have a look at them, just to familiarize ourselves with it. So in Genesis chapter, let's see if I get it right. Is it 10? Something like that. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. These are the children of Noach. Remember, Noach was the one who went into the ark. He had 3 sons, and they populated the world. All the 70 nations, the cool nations of the world, are descended from these 3 sons. B'nai Yefes, the children of Yefes, who was the oldest one. Gomer, that's the Gomer we just saw. Magog, again, there's that country, Gog and Magog, the war of Gog and Magog. Modai, that's Media. Yovon is Greece. Tuval, I'm not sure who Tuval is. Meshech. Now remember, we had in that chapter we just saw now, we had 2 of these names here. We had Rosh, Meshech, and Tuval. Right? Now you could interpret this as Nasi, he's the prince of Rosh, the head of, because Rosh can mean the head, of Meshech and Tuval. That would make sense, because Meshech and Tuval, we see over here, are 2 of the sons of Yefes, Tuval or Meshech. And Tiros, very importantly, Rashi says, Vesiros zu Paras. This is referring to Persia. Again, so it seems that all of... Now, if you actually remember, I gave a lecture about Hanukkah, about the battle between between the Greeks and the Jews, and we actually went into the lineage. They were both descended from two of the sons of Noah. The Greeks are descended from Yefes, and the Jewish people are descended from Shem. We explained the difference in the way they look at the world. Is that Yefes are the ones who look at things more superficially. They've got a very precise way of looking at the world, like the Greeks do, right? The Greek language is very precise. It actually reflects what you're looking at, but it only looks at things on the superficial level, on the physical level, whereas Shem literally means name. So it's looking at the essence of something. The essence of something is in the Hebrew letters, which are the spiritual energy source for the physical object or the physical person. That's the name of the thing, is actually the spiritual source of it. So the name of Shem is name. So that's why the Jewish people who come from Shem have this character trait that we look at things on a deeper level. Whereas Yefes, that means like, it's basically understood to be the Europeans, Russians, Americans, that sort of a nation, which are very spread out the world. I think in India, even possibly India, Persia. Yeah, it's basically a massive amount of the known world is covered by people from Yefes, and that's from the blessing that Hashem gave to Yefes. You have to look into Yefes. Hashem will give Yefes Yaft, which is the same word as Yefes, which means expansion. There will be an expansive people. But also Yefes means Yofi. It can also mean beauty, which means a superficial beauty. So that's a battle between the two. And remember, we said there that the reward for Yefes covering over his father, who was laying in a state of nakedness, with the whole story there we explained, Shem and Yefes both carried in the blanket and they covered over their father. They both got a reward, but the reward was radically different, and we explained it's because their intentions in covering over the body were different. Yefes was interested in covering over the physical body. It doesn't look nice, a physical body in such a state like that. So they didn't care about the spiritual aspect of Noach, their father. They just wanted to cover it over because it doesn't look good. So we said, and because of that, they get a reward of being buried in the war of Gog and Magog. Right, so we see here that these are all the children of Yefes. So all the children of Yefes, almost all of them are mentioned in these verses here. Okay. Right, so we see here, Bnei Gomer, Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is Germany, Rifas, and Togarmo is Turkey. Right, so we're going to see like a lot of the Gog and Magog nations, the ones who are attacking the land of Israel, are all descended. Interestingly, they're not Arabs, and they're not from Esav. They're not from the America. It seems they seem to be the countries, the European countries. Very interesting. Okay, so we could say it's the EU or something like that. Okay, let's just finish off the first few verses, and then we'll do our interpretations, our possible interpretation. Again, this is mainly my ideas based on a couple of things I've heard, but nothing concrete. But, if you've got your ideas, you can leave in the comments. Horas, so this is Persia, Kush, Afut. Again, you've got a couple of African countries here. Edom, Kulam, Mogen, V'chova. They're all armed with protection, with helmets. Gomer v'chol agapehom. Gomer, we said this is Germany, and all its wings. Interesting, Germany, at least the Nazis, they used to have their emblem was an eagle with the wings there. If you know what I'm referring to. But yeah, so remember what we said last time in the previous lecture, that the Chofetz Chaim said the war of Gog and Magog actually happens in 3 parts. So maybe this emphasis in this verse just on Germany, is an allusion to the First and Second World War, because that was definitely a central player there. So Gomer v'chol agapeh, base Togarmo, the house of Turkey, right? And Turkey, we know, was allied with Germany in the Second World War. In the first or second, oh dear, I can't remember. I think the First World War is allied with Germany. Yechezkel from the ends of the north. Veskol Agapov, so Germany is quite a northern country in Europe. It's northern Europe. Maybe it's referring to Russia. I don't know. But anyways, we know that Germany was trying to attack Israel with Rommel. He didn't get there in the end when he's traveling through Africa, I think. Veskol Agapov and all of its wings, Amim Rabim Itoch, and many nations with you. Again, so this is looking like a world war. So you got, so it's a bit confusing now because according to the Chafetz Chaim we said last time, there's 3 different stages to this war. So it could be that these 3, we actually the Yechezkel is actually putting these 3 wars all together in one prophecy. So that gets a bit confusing here. I mean, Poras, we're going to see Poras, I'm pretty sure is happening now. I don't think that happened in the first 2 world wars, but the Third World War, which we're about to enter now, is definitely Persia. So I'm assuming that this is referring to the Third World War. Goim of Chalakapeha, a base Turgamar, Turkey, the northern countries, all with you. With you. Who is this you? Okay. Referring to Gog, the land of Magog, the head of Rosh Meshech and Tubal. Be prepared and make yourself ready, you and your whole assembly, and you be for them a guardian. So it seems that this is the one who's the real military power. He's co-opting some other nations in, and he's the one who's basically protecting them. So don't worry, you follow my lead, we'll win this war. Okay. It's a custom of kings to pay attention concerning the armies to how much they will march forth and appoint guards so that the destroyer should not come upon his army at night. Okay, Limishmar, there'll be a guardian. Make sure they don't get attacked by night. Okay. Miyomim rabim tipoked. Ba'achris hashonim tavoy el eretz meshaveves mecherev. You'll be remembered for many days. At the end of years, you will come to a land whose inhabitants returned from the sword. Mekubeptes me'amim rabim, gathered in from many nations. Al Hore Yisrael, Ashahoyu Lechorba Tomid, which have been continually laid waste, right? V'hi me'amim hutzov yoshu levetach kulam. They was liberated from the nations and they all dwelt securely. This is an incredible prophecy here, if you think about it. This is alluding, I believe, to the Jewish people, it sounds like it's referring to. Which these many years, and only shortly before you're coming upon them, they returned. So this is saying that the Jewish people will return from all the suffering and the persecutions they've had from thousands of years. They've constantly been to the sword, and they've been gathered up from all the nations, from Me'amim, from nations, not one specific nation, from many nations, right? And they've all been gathered back into the land of Israel. You read it, and he was liberated from nations, will not leave it in your hands. And he's thinking, look, Hashem saying that, look, I gathered in the Jewish people, right, to the land of Israel, whatever the political considerations from the time were, the Balfour Declaration, the what's it called, the Peel Commission, then you've got the UN vote, 1947, to give the Jews a state of Israel, right? And there's discussion at the time, was it a good thing, was it a bad thing? From a religious point of view, there's discussion even today about amongst Orthodox Jews, what the Torah perspective on the state of Israel is. But at the end of the day, God arranged it. He got us there. He got us there. Whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, we're not going into that. God got the Jewish people onto the land of Israel, and shortly after, as implied by the prophet, is the Gog and Magog going to start causing problems, right? So, in talking about fledgling state of Israel, only been going for about 70 odd years, and then you think, oh, you're going to get rid of the Jews, are you? Okay, we'll see. And you should come like the mist will come, like a cloud to cover the earth you will be. Right? And you will come with many people, right? Okay, and it's interesting that the Holocaust is actually called the Shoah. Very interesting there. I'm not sure whether they got the word Shoah from this verse, but it's very interesting that the Second World War was referred to the Shoah, the Holocaust, which is actually technically meaning the fog or the mist, the darkness, sort of. On that day, you will have thoughts in your mind, and you will think a bad thought. What's that mean? Rashi says, to wage war against me. That means to wage war against God himself. Because we know anyone who's the enemy of the Jewish people is essentially an enemy of God. Because the Jewish people are the true representatives of God in this world. We're the ones who are trying to actually bring the message of God into the world. And we understand this is the real source of anti-Semitism in the world. This is one of the ideas behind it. It's because we're the ones who are giving morals and ethics and the idea of goodness to the world, which was given to the Jewish people through the Torah. And it's the Western world has mainly taken on these ethics and morals. The justice system is even called the Judeo-Christian sort of values, right? Because the Christians are basically the Western world. So our job is to be a light to the nations, to bring that aspect of goodness and godliness into the world. The people who oppose the Jews, you'll generally see that these aren't just randomly hating this nation called the Jews. There's something corrupt about them in terms of they've got some shortcomings besides the fact that they're anti-Semitic. So if you look at the Germans, right? Okay, they hated Jews, but what else do they do? Hitler, he said that we got to destroy the Jews because they give a conscience to mankind, right? So he understood what was going on, right? We have other nations, like if you have a look at South Africa now, right? South Africa is trying to deflect from the evils it is trying to perpetrate against the white population in South Africa. They're trying to do a genocide there. So what's it trying to do? Oh, accuse someone else of a genocide. Who? The Jews, right? Why? What's really going on spiritually there is they know that they're going against God's will. So what do? You attack God's people, right? You say, look, God's people, they're doing a genocide as well. Any other nation which has got some serious shortcomings will start accusing the Jewish people of something which they themselves are guilty of more than themselves. That's generally what happens. I'm trying to think of examples off the top of my head. I've just gone blank for where do we have examples of anti-Semitism? Right. Yeah, it's a battle against spirituality, basically. Whenever you see, like the Romans, for example, they persecuted the Jews because they were very, very pagan. They didn't like the idea of being constricted. They wanted to be hedonistic. So they destroyed the temple. They didn't like the temple there. We explained about the 4 exiles. We had a whole lecture about that. We see all the different nations had their own characteristics where they didn't want certain of their characteristics to be subjugated or subservient to the spiritual source. The Greeks didn't want their mind to be used as a simple vessel for spirituality. They wanted to use the mind for itself. The Persians wanted to use their physical desires for their own ends without making them subjugated to any spiritual meaning or anything like that. Yeah, so that's an idea of anti-Semitism, really. There's another reason behind anti-Semitism, which we might get into in another time. But anyway, so this is the idea of to wage war against me. You see it very clearly in the Rashi, at least. That people who are plotting against the Jewish people are plotting against me, God says. V'amartan, you say, al eretz prozos avoy al hashoketim, I will ascend upon the land of open cities. I will come tranquil, yoshvei levetach, the nation who's sitting very tranquilly. Kulam yoshvim be'en chomo, they're without a wall of richad l'saim inhem. They don't have any bars or doors, right? So we've got these on October the 7th, maybe these people were very peaceful with the Arabs there. They were the pro-Gazan people. They were trying to make peace between the Jews and the Israelis and the Palestinians. And they're sitting in the open. You see their little towns there. Yeah, literally just houses dotted around, little villages. No barriers, even though there was a big wall, big fence in between Gaza and Israel. You do see that the actual towns which were attacked were completely open. They seemed very vulnerable to attack. Yeah, and the Yoshim Levetach, they were dwelling sort of confidently and securely, right? Maybe the reason why they were secure is because they thought they had all the electronic, sensors and things like that, and they had many safeguards to make sure they couldn't get an invasion, but they all failed on October the 7th. If you know what happened there, it was just like one disaster after the other. So many things went wrong, whether it was inside sort of like a sabotage or anything like that, but that shouldn't have been able to happen with the sophisticated technology of the Israeli defense, people. That shouldn't have happened. So these people were securely sitting, Lishloil shalav v'lovois boz, to take spoil and plunder loot, Yodchal acharavois neshavos, to return your hand upon resettled ruins, Ve'el usaf migoyim, and to the people who are gathered in from nations, Oise mikne v'kinyan yoshvei al tabur haaretz, who are acquiring livestock and possessions, dwelling the navel of the earth. The navel of the earth is the height and the strength of the earth, Rashi says, which is in the center of the person, right? Is the center of the earth. Israel, if you look on a map, it's kind of like the center of everything, because you've got like all the major continents seem to be sort of focusing on that point. You've got Asia to the east, you've got Europe to the west, and Africa to the south. Sort of like the crossroads of three different continents. Okay. Shavod Adon of Zechar Sarshish V'chal Kfireha Yomru L'cha Halishloil Shalol Atova Halavois Baz Kan Kalta Kolach Loses Kesef Zahov Lakachas Mikne V'kinyan Lishloil Shalol Godol. Right, these are the nations and all its magnates. I mean, it's I guess it's offshoots, its smaller states will say to you, are you coming to take spoil, to plunder loot, to carry off gold and silver? Right. Okay, so just looking at the Rashi here, you can read it yourself. Okay, you should therefore, Yechezkel, you see all these people who are planning to attack the land of Israel and the Jewish people. You should say to God, so says God, On the day where my nation is dwelling securely, you shall know. What does that mean? You shall know, you should know why they are so secure. So again, I'm not 100% sure if it's referring to something which has happened already, but it hasn't happened yet. Why are they so secure? It seems to be that at least from what it seems to me, that many Israelis are relying on the Israeli Defense Force. Maybe they weren't until now. Since the disasters happened, maybe they're starting to trust in God now much more. Obviously, the Orthodox people trusted in God beforehand. Okay, again, these sort of things are kind of in the air for me. I don't see exactly how every single detail fits in. I see two options which are very clear, but I'm not sure which one the verse is referring to specifically. It could be the verse is referring to both, right? It can happen like that sometimes you have one verse with multiple meanings, and for example, the Goymer thing, Germany, right? That could be referring to the First World War, and also at the same time the Second World War, because it mentions Gomer twice. So it's First and Second World War, and one time it mentioned Turkey with it, which would be the First World War. And then, but it could also be referring to a third war, maybe, where Germany is part of a European coalition to invade Israel. We don't know. I'm just bringing out these verses just to show you that the prophets were really on the ball here. They really were not making vague prophecies. These are precise prophecies. The question is exactly what they're referring to, because the problem is they're a bit too precise. They're referring to many things just with a few words. So we've got the opposite problem. They're saying too much, right? Precision. Okay, let's just double check that. Let's have a look. So Goyim Evachal base Torah Moshiach Scythia. So it mentions Germany there. Okay, maybe it didn't say go. I thought it said Gomer twice. Okay. Did not mention Gomer twice? Alright, so verse 6 mentions Gomer. Alright. Yeah. So no, it's because of the word Shoya. I assumed that was referring to Germany in the Second World War. Okay, fine. Right, let's carry on. How much more do we have to go here? Okay, it goes to verse 23. Okay. So therefore, I now want you to prophesy on Gog and tell him, and when my nation is sitting confidently, and you're coming from the ends of the north. So that's a big clue who this Gog and Magog are. You and many nations with you, susim kulam, riding on horses, many of them kol gadol v'chayil rav. We don't know what horses refers to. Pretty sure it doesn't mean horses now, but it probably means something which is the equivalent of horses. Remember when we spoke about Adam naming the different animals, we suggested that the word sus is made out of a samach, which is a circle, then a vov, which is a link. The word vov means a hook or a connection, and another samach. So samach with that. So that looks like, first of all, it looks like a horse just galloping, it makes circular motions. It could also be a horse pulling a wagon, or a horse could mean a wheeled vehicle. Right? If you have a look at it, look at the word sus over here. Let me highlight it for you. There you go. This is the word sus. Susim, the yud mem at the end is just a plural. So if you have a look at this, you've got the wheel, the link there, the vov. Just imagine that's a horizontal line instead of a vertical one. And you've got another circle. Okay? So that could be that we're talking about Rochve Susim, ones who are riding on tanks or vehicles, but a massive army. And you come on my nation Israel like a cloud to cover the earth, right? This definitely sounds more like a war we haven't seen yet. At the end of days, you shall be. And I will bring you al aretzi, on my land, leman das hagoyim, in order that the nations of the world shall know me, because when I sanctify myself through you to their eyes, goik. So you've got to have the nations of the world are going to be onlooking, seeing this goik attacking Israel, mighty nation, and people are going to be, wow, okay, let's see what happens here. They're going to destroy Jewish people, and then God's going to use that. If you remember my third, every single time it comes back to those Keystone lectures, the third Keystone lecture about why God does everything. The ultimate way that God reveals himself in the world is by giving potential opposition to him. Now remember, the opposition to him is opposition to the Jewish people in this context. So you're going to see people fighting against God's nation, and he's going to say, let them bring the biggest army, the most fearsome army, the scariest weapons, most advanced weapons. Now I'm going to sanctify my name through protecting the Jewish people and turning everything against them, right? Like he's done many times, like he did with the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians. He destroyed them in literally one night, through the Persians in that case. Okay, so let's carry on. Right, so this is the idea of God trying to sanctify himself through the destruction of Gog, and because the whole world will be watching, the question is, how are they going to know about this? So now we've got things like the internet, and people can actually see what's going on in live, in real time. So people are going to know straight away what's going on with God protecting the Jewish people. Koi ma Hashem lakim hatu asher dibarti b'yomim kadmonim b'yad avodai haneviyei Yisrael hanibe b'yomim haim shonim lavi yisrael aleim. And God says to him, are you the one who I spoke about in the earlier days to my servants, the prophets of Israel, who prophesied in those times many years ago, or for many years, to bring you onto them, onto the land of Israel, right? Like Ezekiel and Zechariah, right? As the last chapter of Zechariah speaks about. And our rabbis tell us that Eldod Medod Hemisnabu Olov. Like there's a story in chapter 12 or 13 in, I think it's 12, I think, in the book of Numbers. This is, it says here, Eldod and Medod, they prophesied in the camp. I think it's 11, is it 12? I can look it up quickly. Here we go, chapter 11. So we've got a whole story about terrible things which happened with the Jewish people, certain rebellions and doubts in God, and Moses getting quite upset about it. And then God said, I've got a solution for you. Look, you get 70 people with you, and they will split the load on the Jewish people. Right? Here we go to chapter, what did I say it was? Chapter 11, right near the end of the chapter, I think. Right? Basically, there were meant to be 70 Zakanim, 70 elders who were meant to receive this Ruach HaKodesh, this Holy Spirit, which emanated onto Moshe and then spread out from Moshe onto the 70. But there was the way it worked is there was 12 tribes, and they would take 6 elders from each of the 12 tribes to make up the 70. The problem is, if you do your maths, that should make 72. So that means 2 of these are going to miss out. And they basically did a lottery to say which ones would get the spirit, and 2 of the people would remain without it. 2 people didn't even bother going. 2 people remained in the camp. Shem Echad Eldad v'Shem Hasheni Meidod. One of them was called Eldad, the second was called Meidod. V'atonach alehem haruach. They were very humble. We just have a look at the Rashi here, and you're in time, you can pause the video. It says that they actually would have been one of the chosen, but they were so humble, they think, we're definitely going to be the 2 who are going to be left out, so they didn't even bother going. But the Spirit still spread to them, and they had some incredible prophecies. If you look at the different midrashim, it speaks about the type of prophecies they had, very, very powerful ones. One of them was that Moses wasn't going to come into the land. He was going to die outside the land of Israel. Another prophecy they had, according to this, as it says here, Eldad and Meidod also prophesied about this. Yeah, that is the Shonim. Don't say the word Shonim, which means years, but Shnayim. Same letters, different vowels, can mean the number 2. 2 prophets prophesied one prophecy at one time. Yeah, but not in exactly the same way. Okay, so basically it's saying that the idea of these prophets prophesied about you thousands of years in advance. In terms of Eldad and Meidod, we're talking about 3,500 years almost in advance. With Yechezkel and Zechariah, we're talking more like 2,600 years in advance, 2,700 years, something like that. And Hashem's going to say, look, oh, maybe this is referring to me. Yeah, God's saying, look, didn't I tell you in the times of the prophets that that this was happening? And maybe that's what my goal for this video is, just to show, look, God prophesied about all these events, and they're coming true. And look, when they come true, hopefully anyone watching this video or who has access to the prophets, people who actually read through the whole Tanakh and not just the cherry-picked ones that missionaries like to just focus on and not look at the whole book. So people who are aware of these prophecies say, oh, look, Adam Herskin on his video, yeah, he told us about these prophecies. Hey, look, they are coming true. Yeah, this was prophesied by God in the hands of Ezekiel and Zechariah. Hopefully, that'd be nice if I'm part of this somehow. Right? With the 2 or 3 people who actually bother watching the video. Right. And it will be on the day where Gog comes onto the land of Israel. Right. So does that mean literal day? Sometimes a day can mean, in God's eyes, a day can be a bit longer than what we call a day. But okay, so that's open. But it seems to be saying when they come onto the land of Israel, then God's going to get, so to speak, angry, or as the Torah puts it, my anger will come up in my nostrils. So this is sort of anthropomorphic, is that the word? Yeah, anthropomorphism, speaking about God in terms of humans. So we get an idea what it's referring to, the intensity of God's anger now. So basically, they're in big trouble. And for in my jealousy and the fire of my wrath I have spoken. If they won't be on that day, there will be a massive ra'ash, noise. Ra'ash can mean like a hurricane or something like that, right? But there was something very, very loud. It says through noise and thunder. So basically, when God's doing the thunder, the thunder, the thunder stick or whatever, thunder and lightning act. Right, so that's very scary. And the fish and the birds will be terrified, right? And the animals are the thing. We know that it's interesting. I'll tell you in a minute. We'll finish the pasuk first. And all the creepy crawlies, and all man, which is on all the face of the earth. And the mountains should be destroyed. V'noflu hamadregos, and the steps should be fallen. The oretz tipol, and all walls will be falling to the ground. I'll just have a look at this. Anything which I can speak about here in the Rashi? No. It's interesting that we know that animals and birds especially, they get premonitions about bad things. Like they say dogs also get it. That if they could feel there's an earthquake coming or something like that, they really start acting anxious or something like that. The birds start flying away from storms and things like that because they can feel the change in the air pressure and subtle things like that. So because and man at the end, yeah. And after all the animals already look up what's happening, then you got the animals sort of joining forces. Okay, let's carry on here. And I will call the sword against him upon all my mountains, says Hashem. Every man's sword will be against his brother. Right? What does this mean? I will prepare. And what is the sword I'll call against them? Their own sword. So basically, it seems that there's going to be some infighting, either accidentally, there's going to be friendly fire, or there's going to be a breakdown in the coalition and people are going to be turning against each other. There's going to be some sort of panic there. Okay. And I will judge them there with pestilence and with blood, the geshem shotef, and with pouring rain. Rain? What type of rain? Rain, bringing floods, right, okay. Vavneil Govish, and with great hailstones, and we know this could be referring to the massive hailstones which they had at the time of the Egyptians. The seventh plague was hailstones. Eish v'gofris, fire and sulfur. Amtirolov, I'll rain upon him. Balagapov, and on all his partners, right, all his wings, all the Balaam and Rabbi Moshe and all the people who are with him. Let's look at Rashi. Hailstones, they glisten like crystal. Right, our sages say El Gavish Avnei Borod, the stones of Borod, of the hailstones, Sheschil Leredam Mitzrayim, Ba'amdu Ba'avir, El Gavish Moshe, Shespal Shelo Yerdu. Right, Moshe at the end of chapter something around must be something like 6, 7, 8, probably like chapter 9 or something like that in Exodus, right? Oh, 1 minute, it says here. Oh yeah, very good. Why does it say Shmos Hey here? Should be Shmos Tes. It says 5 here. Yeah, this is correct. The English is actually more accurate here. Yeah, Exodus chapter 9. It says that the hailstones did not fall to the earth. That means that after the 7 days of hailstones, these are sort of like miraculous hailstones. These weren't just your regular hailstones which you get like that big. These were huge ones, and some of them were basically balls of ice with fire inside, and some of them were balls of ice with fire on the outside. So either way, there was a miracle going on that ice and fire coexisted, just to show that God's in charge of all opposites, that there's no rules which bind God. God can do anything, even against the rules of nature. So they're falling down throughout the 7 days, and then suddenly, instead of them stopping and then the last few tumbling to the ground, when Moshe davened, when he prayed for God to stop the hail, God literally stopped them midair, and they actually stood in the air. So I don't know where they are now physically, or what this means practically, but the idea is that those hailstones which haven't yet fallen, they're going to finish their job at this battle. So I'm pretty sure this definitely hasn't happened yet, right? Because this seems to be, these last few verses seem to be referring to the last stage of Gog and Magog. So even according to the Chofetz Chaim, that Gog and Magog is the 3 world wars, this definitely seems to be referring to the 3rd stage. And I will be made great and sanctified, and I will be known to the eyes of many nations, and they will know that I am Hashem. I am Hashem, I am God. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to, there's another chapter after this. If you want to do your homework and go ahead and read the next chapter, you can give your comments as well, what you think it might be referring to. I'm trying to stick to, as much as I can, the text itself, but also because we have some clues in the Talmud and Midrash, and also Rashi helps us quite a lot. We got some more precise understanding of these nations. Now, let's start from these nations here. We ask the question, who's Gog from Eretz Magog? Let's see if we can move this out in such a way where you can see me at the same time. Oh, here we go. We do this. Maybe if I move here, right, then you can see it as well. Okay, there you go. I hope it's not too small there. Okay, fine. Right, so we're looking at the verses here. Good. Okay, fine. Right, so having a look at these verses over here, right, here we go. Right. Where is it? Okay. Right, and you should say, this is what Hashem Elokim says. Elecha Gog Nasi Rosh Meshech Suval. Now, who are these nations here? Right, so we know that Magog is a land. Is one of the children of Yefes, as we saw beforehand in Genesis, the descendants of Noach, the children of Yefes. This Meshech and Suval, I'm not quite sure who they are. However, if you have a look at the names, Rosh, Meshech, Rosh is the same word as Rus, which is the name of the original Russian. I don't know what's happened here. I've gone all funny. All right, we'll have to leave that. There's a way of fixing this. Not sure what just happened. Okay, it looks like I've gone all squashy for some reason here. Okay, anyway, we're going to have to finish off the video looking at this. If you see it, it's strange as well. Okay, anyway. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it's just like my recorder went a bit funny there. Sorry about that. Okay, so Rus is Rosh, Russia. Meshech looks like Moscow, right? If you have a look at the in Hebrew, you look at the consonants, not the vowels. So you've got an M, you've got an S or a SH, and then you've got a Ch, that's a C, Moscow. Someone told me that once. It sounds very interesting. So therefore, Rosh is not translated as the head of Meshech and Tuval. Rather, Rosh is referring to Russia itself. Meshech would be Moscow. And Tuval, I still don't know who Tuval is. I think one of the commentaries might tell us who Tuval is. I assume it's like somewhere near there. Now, we asked the question, what's going on with Gog in the land of Magog, but he's the head of Rosh Meshech V'Suval. And what I think is going on here, the Gemara in the Talmud in 10a in Tractate Yoma actually tells us what this nation Magog is. It gives a name for it. I can't remember the name offhand. But the name of the nation in the Art Scroll Talmud, it goes through all these different nations. It tells us the ancient names, which are the Talmud obviously doesn't give modern names because it was written 1800 years ago or 1500 years ago. It gives different names for these different countries who are the children of Yefes, and the translation of those Hebrew names are going to be ancient nations of that time period. And the one which Magog is translated as is Scythia. So I tried doing my research. I found out this country, Scythia, is actually where it was a very large nation to the north of the Black Sea. And that is Ukraine. So this is absolutely incredible. So therefore you've got here almost 3,000-year-old prophecies predicting that you're going to have, as I understand, Russia, Moscow, Gog, maybe that's President Putin, maybe, I don't know. I heard Rabbi Kessin, when he was explaining there's different aspects to Edom. There's a certain spiritual nation called Edom, and it's got three aspects to it. And you see the three branches of Christianity actually split up into these three regions, one of them being Russia, one of them being Europe, and one of them being America. So he explains that there's three negative elements, three negative characteristics of these nations. One of them is arrogance, one of them is lies, and one of them is greed. Right? So there's three negative aspects of this nation called Edom. One of them is salvageable. That's he said that's America, referring to the country of greed, because America is all about consumerism, things like that. Whereas he said that Russia corresponds to arrogance, right? The idea of we've got to be the best at everything. The idea of, I guess, they want to excel at in science and sports and culture and things like that, right? It's a very proud country, right? Okay, that's what he says. And you've got the EU, which is Europe, which would be the lies, and we know what they get up to with their two-faced ways of doing things. With I'm not going into that at all, but people who know about the EU, it's all about lies and deception, right? So there's a big backlash in Europe at the moment against the people who are trying to manipulate things. They speak with one side of the mouth and they do something opposite. Okay. But anyway, so Gog is the arrogant one. Gog actually comes from the word Gog, which means roof, right? So I'm the roof, I'm the top one, I'm at the top. We had a whole lecture, we had a whole video all about gratitude and the battle between Gog and David. Gog, remember, was Gimel and another Gimel, giver and another giver. I'm the giver, I'm the one who gives you everything. Whereas David is Dalet, I'm nothing. I've got nothing by myself. Everything is given to me. And then he makes himself even more humble. This idea of humility, that I'm nothing. Whereas Gog is saying, I'm everything. So, okay, could be Putin. Again, I don't want to get into politics. Everyone's going to have their different opinions about him. But yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say he's quite an arrogant person. Yeah. He probably thinks quite a lot of himself. He's the one rebuilding the great nation of Russia and things like that. Okay. Now, Eretz Magog. Now we've answered our question, if you think about it. We've got the head of Rosh, Russia, Meshech, and again, I don't know what Tuval is. Tuval might be another region of Russia or something like that. I have no idea. right? So he is the leader of Russia. But he is Gog, Eretz HaMogog, in the land of Magog, in the land of Ukraine. So what's going on here? And later on, it doesn't mention Magog. I'm against you, Gog, the head of Russia, or Rosh, Meshach, Moscow, and Tuval, maybe St. Petersburg, I don't know, no idea, right? But over here, it refers to Gog as the president. Interesting, it doesn't call him a melech either. Beautiful. Because Nossi means a prince or a president, as opposed to melech would mean a king. So we're talking about a country which doesn't have a king, it's just got a president. Oh, very nice, right? Yeah, so the president of Russia, Moscow and Tuval, right? And that's who he is. Magog is an anomaly here, because he's not the president of Magog. It says, put your face, Yechezkel, I want you to prophesy on Gog. Let's say that's Putin. Again, I don't know for sure, but it seems to fit in. Eretz HaMogog, who is in the land of Magog. So we always think that he is the leader of Magog. I don't think it means that. I think it means Gog is in the land of Magog. He's conquering Ukraine, the head of Russia, and Meshach, Moscow, right? He's conquering Ukraine. Then he turns his attention to the land of Israel. Then he makes a coalition with many nations, and they all come with him. And who's the head of them? Who's the first one? Prus, Iran, Persia. Right? We're going to see hopefully in the next lectures the significance of Persia and Iran. So we know that there's a coalition between Russia and Iran. I think Russia's supplying Iran with weapons, or the other way around, or something like that. Yeah, so we definitely see some serious a connection between this Gog, who's the head of, let's assume it means Russia, and Moscow and Tuval. Then you have many nations with you, which is Iran. Now, it's a bit confusing for me, because if that's what it means, it seems to be that Iran is the one who is instigating the problem, and Russia's joining up with Iran. But it could be when the actual war happens, Russia will actually attack first, and maybe Iran will join its soldiers in later. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. But it could be that that we did say before that this Gog is going to be the one who's going to be the protector of all its allies. So it could be that Russia is the main force. Don't worry, we'll win this war based on our strength, right? And Iran, what do you want to do? You want to attack Israel? Fine, I'll go with you. I'll be Vayisalehem Mishmar, and you'll be for them a guardian. Yeah. So it seems to be saying that Russia will ally itself with Persia and Kush and Phut. I don't know how that comes in, to be honest. Well, I guess we'll see. That's Kush is usually referred to as Ethiopia. It could be Somalia, maybe Phut, maybe some other African countries. Maybe South Africa? Maybe South Africa? Could be. Because it's very hard to know exactly. These countries were African. These are the four sons of Ham. That's the third brother, the third son of Noach, the one who actually did the bad thing with his father. Right. So Ham had four children: Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. Cush, which is this country here. Cush, which is usually referred to as Ethiopia or a northeastern African country bordering to Egypt. Mitzrayim is the second one. Put is the third one, and Canaan is the Canaanites. They're the original inhabitants of the land of Israel. So here's picking the first and the third oldest of the children of Ham. Okay. They're coming with. Okay, so I'm not quite sure how they come in. They seem very insignificant nations as well. Unless, thinking maybe the Houthis or something like that, maybe. They're causing problems. They're to the south, but they're the other direction. They're more on the Arabian Peninsula as opposed to the African side of the Red Sea. Yeah. So again, maybe something we'll find out as the things develop. But remember, we put a bookmark on this. Cushion put. Still got to decide what that probably is referring to. Then you've got Goymer, Germany, and all its allies. The house of Togarmah of Turkey, from the north, right? Amun Rabim Itoch, many nations with you. Now again, this could be the complication in this prophecy. It could be that the first part of the three parts of the Minimise Gog and Magog, actually the leader was actually Germany, and it could be it was started by Russia. Russia was the one who really brought the fight to Germany, but then maybe the German and Turkish aspects of the First World War. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that they were attacking Israel in any specific way. So it could be that this aspect of coming onto the land of Israel is only referring to the third stage of the Minimise Gog and Magog, but the first two stages actually were not done directly by Russia. Russia was heavily involved in both world wars. We know that for sure. And we definitely know that Ukraine was very involved in the Holocaust. They were one of the worst nations who actually killed the Jews, probably worse than the Nazis themselves. So again, according to the Chofetz Chaim, this is much easier to understand, is that there's a mixture of three different wars all mentioned in this chapter here. The main thrust is the third war, where they actually come onto the land of Israel, which we haven't seen yet in any of the world wars. But it seems at the moment that the way things are gearing up, it seems that Russia are trying to reinforce Syria or something like that. So Russia is bringing some troops down to help Syria, even though they're very involved in the war with Ukraine. Yeah, and we definitely know they're allied with Iran. They just made a treaty with Iran, the BRICS nations. I might mention this if I find the source. There was a source which said there's going to be a battle between America and a coalition of Iran. And Iran's going to bring... sorry, a bit tired today. Iran's going to bring a coalition from the four corners of the earth, which is very interesting because we know that you've got the BRICS nations now. BRICS represents the countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and the S is South Africa. Now, if you have a look at the four corners of the world, north, south, east, and west, let's start from the west. The far west would be Brazil. The far north will be Russia. That's a major power in the north. The major power in the west can't be America, because we talk about America fighting against this coalition of nations. So the major four countries, north, south, east, west of the world, will be Brazil in the west, Russia very clearly in the north. The east is either China or India, but both of them are part of the coalition, right? So, and the south is from South Africa. It's actually literally got the word south in its name. So it's very interesting there. Right. Anything else to tie this up here? So why do we bring this up? Yeah, so it seems that that's the coalition which Iran will have, and it will be fighting against, it seems to be America and Saudi Arabia. We'll speak about that maybe next time, or maybe we just do the next chapter next time. I think we'll have to stop here. So anyway, so summing up, We see here that the prophecy from over 2,500 years ago is clearly saying there'll be a time where a northern country, most likely to be Russia, who happens to be stationed or in the land of Magog, in the land of Ukraine, is then going to travel south with many nations, including at the head Paras, that's Persia, which is now known as Iran, and a couple of other countries, which we have to see how they come. Base Torah, Turkey, you can definitely see happening, because Turkey is starting to be aggressive towards Israel now. And they're all going to be reliant on this very powerful nation, which is very likely, just even without the names Rosh, Meshech, sounding like Russia and Moscow, right? Even without knowing those names, you would say, well, what's a big country which everyone's going to rely on? What are the world powers at the moment? It's 4 world powers, really, aren't they? America, Russia, militarily, we're talking about India and China, right? I wouldn't say there are any other world powers in terms of military, right? So if you're talking about a country from the north and near Ukraine, pretty sure that that's referring to Russia. So looking at Russia, and that's giving strength to all its allies, including Persia, and they're all going to come on the land of Israel. And then when they do that, God's going to bring his wrath, and there's going to be some sort of earthquake, lots of plagues, blood, all very dramatic sort of stuff, all very Dever. There's going to be plague as well, blood, floods, massive hailstones, fire and brimstone. Yeah. So it seems that this is clearly a miraculous thing. This is not talking about like just an earthquake and a volcano. We're talking about many things happening all at the same time. Dever seems to be a plague, which is like obviously microbes. But then you've got something completely different. You've got like environmental disasters as well. You've got like a rain, then you've got the hailstones at the same time, and then you've got fire and brimstone, fire and gophers, sulfur, right? So that seems to what's going to happen, and straight after that, that's going to be the sanctification of God's name. That's going to be sanctification of God's name, when the whole world sees that when the people of God, who are meant to be representing God in the world and bringing God's message to the world, are being attacked by people who obviously oppose that, then God's name will be glorified by showing, look, these are my children, the Jewish people, who have been loyal to me for thousands of years, despite the persecutions, despite the different nations trying to seduce them to go away from the religion, to convert to other religions, pain of death, or just by influencing them in other ways, or just by killing them, persecuting them, making them suffer. The suffering servant, as Yeshaya 53 speaks about. Isaiah 53, referring to the Jewish people suffering throughout the ages, and the nations thinking that we've been rejected, but the truth is, it's just the nations have just been evil, and they're bearing the Jewish people are just bearing the sins, the evil of the non-Jews who persecute them. Remember, there's good non-Jews, bad non-Jews, just like there's good Jews and bad Jews. But we're focusing mainly here on the ones who are rebelling against God, which seems to be Russia, a lot of European countries, and God's going to punish them in such a way where his name will be exalted. So let's see, that's my take on again, a lot of the interpretations are just purely mine, based on just reading and knowing different midrashim, different Talmudic sources. Seems to be what's going to happen. Right, so we would expect the next stage is Russia strengthens its its foothold in maybe Syria or the land there, and they would actually try to invade. Once Russian troops step into Israel proper, that's when I would say things should be heating up, literally fire and brimstone heating up, and that should be close to the end. So we'll have to make sure we get ourselves in order here. Remember, we spoke about the birth pangs of the Messiah last lecture. The idea being that when a person transitions from one stage of existence to a completely different way of existing, we have to change, and change is painful. However, those people who start repenting now and start fixing this and start living the life of the messianic age, that means connection to God, knowledge of God. So build up your knowledge of God now. Do it now. Do kindness. Be a giver. Be good to your neighbor. Be good to your friend. Be good to your spouse, your children, your family. Be good to the stranger. Be kind. Yeah. It says that people who want to be saved from the war of Gog and Magog should be involved in Torah and Gemilas Chasodim, in the study of the Torah and of doing kindness, because these are the two things: connection to God through Torah, that's the knowledge of God, and through kindness, doing good to others, right? And that way we become similar to God. Those are the two key ways that we save ourselves from the war of Gog and Magog, right? And this transition won't be such a sudden shock to the system. However, for the people who are completely disconnected from that, it's going to be a massive shock to the system. And suddenly they're living their daily lives, working, eating, just enjoying this world without thinking about God at all. Then suddenly their whole focus has to be totally focused only on God and on spiritual pursuits. It's going to be such a shock to the system. They're going to have to go through a lot of suffering to break them out of that mold which they're in. Whereas people who are already sensitized to these things, they're going to be in a much better position, and the suffering which they'll have to go through to change will be minimal, if any at all. Okay, so that is my take on this chapter, and hopefully next time we'll do the following chapter. Then maybe we'll look at the chapter of Zechariah, which also speaks about this, the war of Gog and Magog. And then we might look at a couple of Midrashic and Talmudic sources. Okay, thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any comments. Again, this one is really open. I'm really looking for anyone who's got any ideas how to maybe interpret these verses slightly differently or very differently. Who's this Suval? If someone could tell me, I'd appreciate that as well. Push or put, maybe you've got any ideas for these two nations, how they figure in at all. All right, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a different lecture today, just literally going through a paragraph, a chapter in the Tanakh, and trying to work out what's going on. Thanks for listening. All the best.